So just by way of introduction, my name's Deanna. I'm the recruitment coordinator here at the college. So I help students get to vet school. I get paid full-time to help students. So that's kind of an awesome job.
I'm Kathy Keel. I'm the coordinator of admissions, and I'm the one who will see your applications. Our office does the academic review of your applications. So basically, I handle getting everything ready for the committee and working with them in evaluating the applications.
Yeah. Okay. So we will go ahead and get started. Okay. So in a nutshell, here is how we review our applications. So 50% of your score is going to come from an academic review. 50% is going to come from a committee review. Our interviews have been discontinued for this year. So we'll actually talk a little bit about more about what that means later on in our session here. But really, so what we're looking at is your academics and then your committee review. So let's break down the academics first, and then we'll go into the committee. So if you have questions about academics, you can feel free to type those in right now. I'll kind of go through and click answered if we're answering those throughout the these next couple of slides. But go ahead and answer put those in there. So first thing is we do look at your cumulative undergraduate GPA,
yes,
right?
Cumulative undergraduate, right.
Okay. So that needs to be a 2.5. It's written in Iowa code. So, you'll need to be at that 2.5 or higher to have us look at your application. So that's the only time that we look at that cumulative GPA. Then we're going to look at, sorry.
No,
okay.
You're doing great.
So then we're going to look at your required sciences GPA. And so those, I'm going to skip ahead just a second so that we can see those real quick. So those are going to be, the science courses listed on those prerequisites. Okay. So we're going to look at your required sciences. We're also going to look at the last about 45 credits. So we're going to look at the whole semester where you hit 45 credits, correct? So we're not going to split terms.
You may have, you may have 52 credits. You may have 46 credits. It just depends upon where the terms break.
Yep, absolutely. And then the last 45 credits includes graduate work, correct? Right. Okay, perfect. Then we did, so as part of our academics, we used to look at your graduate or your score from the GRE. We do not anymore. That was new this year. So, I think you get, 4 free schools to send your application or your GRE to. Iowa State should not be one of those 4. Even if you submit it, we do not look at it at all. So we want to, level playing field for everyone. So does the last 45 credit GPA include all college courses taken, study abroad, community college courses, or is it specific to primary university?
No, it's whatever you took for the last 45. So if you took a summer course at a community college, and then you took some at your primary college, and maybe did a study abroad through another institution, it would just go back. It goes back term by term.
Okay. So let's see. I'm going to shift to this. Sorry, I wanted to say that, so our average science GPA for this class that just started last week, actually, a week and a half ago, the VM ones are into class already. So the required science GPA, the average for that was 3.48. And then the average last 45 credits was a 3.67. So just, kind of using that as a reference point. Okay, let's go on to this next slide, and then we'll get to those questions about academics. So do you want to talk a little bit about entering transcripts?
Okay, when you enter your transcripts on VMCAS, you basically just want to make it a carbon copy of what your transcript looks like. You need to look at your official transcript. If you print out your unofficial transcript, a lot of times it is not identical to your official transcripts, particularly if you've had AP credits or International Baccalaureate credits. It doesn't show up the same way. VMCAS is going to send it back to you. Basically, you need to look at your official transcript and make an exact duplicate of it. That just prevents you from having to take time. VMCAS will send it back to you and tell you you need to do this. So it just saves you time just to make an identical copy of it in the electronic portion.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to highlight that no preference is given. There's no preference given on where you take those courses. So you could take those courses at community college for your institution. It really doesn't have any bearing on your score. We're just looking at that grade. And then for repeated coursework, we take the last or the most recent grade. So if you're taking, retaking OChem 1 to try and get a better grade, for better or for worse, we're taking that, most recent coursework. So
you want to do better because we will use the last grade the last time you took it.
Yep. So let's see. If you retake a class, though, that has the potential of raising your last 45 credits.
Right. If the first time you took the class is included in the last 45 credits, the first time is just totally disregarded. It's like you never took it the first time, and only the second time would be included in that GPA calculation. But if you took it, if it's already out of the last 45, then it doesn't make any difference anymore.
Okay, so do we need to include transfer credits to Iowa State, even if we included the class under community college in VMCAS?
No, not if you don't need to put your transfer courses in as long as you have the transcript from that community college. Any transfer credits, you need to have that transcript anyway, or VMCAS is going to say you're incomplete. So you don't need to enter the transfer credits, but you would need to enter AP if it's written on your official transcript.
Okay. So how do you calculate this question says, how do you calculate the plus or minus scale when calculating GPAs?
We calculate it the same way VMCAS does, and that is always like a C plus would be a 2.3. B minus would be a 2.7. So it's always 0.3 or 0.7. The only time that changes is if a college has 0.5 and they use a 0.5 scale, then it's calculated with 0.5.
Okay. So, wow, you guys have awesome questions. Okay. So I'm just going to go down the line from most recently, or first asked to most recently asked. So this is a question: do applicants have to pass academic review in order to move on to the committee review?
Yes, they do. The committee determines what that they preset it for us, and then people that score below that are denied based on the academic review. It's usually fairly low. It can change from year to year, but generally, if you have a chance of getting in, you will make the academic cutoff.
Okay. So does graduate work have to be science related?
No, the difference with graduate work is it's only for didactic courses. That's your classroom courses. We don't take research. We don't take seminar courses like that are more of discussion type of courses. It has to be where you're sitting in a classroom learning a specific topic.
Okay. So talking about required science courses that students are still working on once they hit the submit button, will the GPA not include them? So required science isn't going to include.
Okay, it will not. We do an initial one, initial GPA calculation. That is what we use to determine whether you make the academic cutoff. your fall grades will be included. Decisions are not made until February, about mid-February. So we will update both your last 45 and your required science GPA based on your fall grades, summer and fall. Because if you don't, some people have their summer grades in, they're used in the initial calculation. If you don't have your summer grades in, then we lump them into the fall with the fall grades. So summer and fall grades, they are used to update your GPAs before final decisions are made.
Okay. I think we're having problems with our Facebook live feed, so we'll have to work on that. Okay, so is the TOEFL required for those whose first language isn't English?
It is only if you have not gone to a U.S. college, if you've done your work in your native language, except for Puerto Rico, because you are U.S. citizens, we do not require the TOEFL. That goes for like the other, what are they, protectorates? I'm not sure of the correct terminology. So we don't require it for anybody that's considered an American citizen. The only thing I have to say for that, about that, is that you really need to have a good handle on the English language because of what is taught here. If you don't, it's taught fast enough that people that speak English have problems with it. So if you're trying to translate in your mind and taking the time to do that, it is very difficult on the person who's trying to do that. So my advice is you get as much, if you're not a native English speaker, get as much practice listening and speaking the English language, just in order to be on top of things when you get here.
Okay, so one question was, so what happens to that, saving genetics until spring of 2019? Where do those courses come into place?
You just need to get a C in them, and that's why we limit it to only 2 required sciences in the spring term. Before we limited it, which was probably 10 to 15 years ago, people would leave like 4 or 5 sciences that's all they take in the spring. All they had to get was a C in order to have any admissions to be admitted, which was not fair to the people that had already taken all those courses and had taken a hit for organic or something like that. So we limit it to 2 because those grades cannot be used in the final decision making.
Okay, so if I'm working, let's see, if I'm working a research job, okay, so I'm going to hold off on this question about working research and where to put it in experience. I promise we'll come to that in just a little bit. So when calculating the last 45 credit GPA, will that include using the semester GPA from each individual school? For example, community college classes transferring over but do not affect your university GPA?
Yes, it is individual. Your grades affect, regardless of how many different schools you went to, we look at each grade individually. It's not like when you transfer, say 15 credits from a community college to your primary college, and they just say you get these credits and they don't give you a grade on them. We use every grade in calculating the last 45.
Great. So if you're going to be retaking a required course that did not meet the grade requirement in the upcoming semester, will your application be rejected until the required grade is met?
No. What we will do in the GPA calculations is we will use the grade you received. However, you will have not met the requirement, but you still have fall and spring to repeat that course and meet the requirement.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I entered my transcript, but for one class, which is a 0.5, VMCAS doesn't let me add it. What can I do to solve this problem? That I think would
call VMCAS. I can't answer that. I honestly don't know.
Yeah. Okay. How does an incomplete affect your GPA?
It doesn't have any impact because we don't have a grade or anything, so it's considered as not being taken.
Okay. My college's labs are non-credit. Should we include those on transcripts as non-credit because they are prerequisite?
Yes, if it's, I know South Dakota, I believe, does this, and it says, I'm trying to think of biology lab, NG, which means no grade. Yes, if it's stated that way on your transcript, you need to enter it that way.
Okay. So does a withdrawal affect your GPA?
No.
No, because it's the same kind of
Yeah.
thing as an incomplete. Perfect. Right. If I retake a class at another school from where I first took it, will it still replace it?
Yes, you do not have to take the exact same course, but you need to take an equivalent course.
So for that grade for that class that they retook, they still need to put the first one on.
Right. We're the ones that will ignore.
VMCAS.
You have to have everything in there. We're the ones that will ignore the grade.
Mm-hmm. So if your undergraduate program doesn't require, in this case, general bio 2 or whatever prerequisite, can courses like nutrition, reproduction, or other animal science classes or plant science classes count?
No. Every vet school has their own requirements. It has nothing to do with what your course of study at your primary institution requires. You have to meet all of each school's prerequisites. There are, depending upon what it is, we will take an organismal biology and a cellular biology, both with labs, instead of a bio 1 and a bio 2, but they have to fulfill those requirements.
Great. So I recently started a new community college for a few prerequisites. Do I need to submit a transcript even though I haven't completed any courses there? Everything is just planned.
You don't have to submit the transcript, but we really need to know on your VMCAS application that those courses are planned, because if you do not put down what you are planning to take, you will probably get a letter from us or a message from us that says, hey, you're deficient in this coursework because we don't know that you're planning on taking it. So please put any planned courses down. It just makes everything go faster for us, and it saves you a lot of headaches.
Okay, so how about electives? What do you consider electives?
Electives are any course you've received a C or better and you haven't used it for any other requirement. So you could take swimming and that can be an elective for 1 credit. It doesn't matter. As long as you got a C or better and you're not using it to cover any other prerequisite, you're fine.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to still work out the Facebook Live. I've got a question, but I'm not sure that we're actually streaming live, so we'll see. So we answered that one. Perfect. What about a vet tech degree? Does that, and we can talk about this more maybe when we talk about experience, but does that align with experience prerequisites?
Most of the courses will not be used as prerequisites because veterinary technology is considered a vocational technical degree. We do use anatomy or physiology from a vet tech degree. The other courses really do not count for anything towards the vet degree. If you've gotten an associate's degree where you've taken some college transfer courses, those of course would work, but the actual vet tech courses do not count. Do you want me to go into experience?
Let's wait on experience if that's okay, and we will get there on the next slide or two if that works. Okay. If a class is repeated over a summer semester, will courses be recognized if they were comparable to the original course of the primary?
Right, as long as it's an equivalent course, yes, it would be considered a repeat.
So I read that VMCAS will not review transcript entry until all documents are received, and that can take up to several weeks.
No, what will happen is once all your transcripts are in and one evaluation is in, it will go into the verification queue. However, if you submit your application within a week of the deadline, they have so many applications, it will take a few weeks to get everything verified, just because of the huge amount of everybody that submits right close to the deadline.
Okay. Trying to answer people back on Facebook too, so this is like a multi device sort of function here. Okay, so will we have to send you another transcript at the end of the semester? Right.
Transcripts for the original for the September 17th all need to be sent to VMCAS. Summer and fall transcripts need to be sent directly to each school that you've applied to. And our deadline is February 1st for summer and fall, July 1st for spring.
Okay. Does anatomy have to be human, or can it be equine, small animal?
Okay, what it needs to be, we don't allow like equine specific, bovine specific, avian. So the specific species, we don't use that. It does not need to be human. Many animal science degrees, they have anatomy and physiology of domestic animals, things like that. It's just that when it's just one specific animal, we will not use that.
Okay. And so the last 45 credits doesn't necessarily have to be a 2.5 or above. It's just the cumulative.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing I have to say for that, if you have a last 45 of a 2.5, you will not get in. That's just way too low based on current applicant pools.
Okay. Okay, that's a work experience question. We'll come back to that one. Can class credits be earned through AP courses? Can class credits earned through AP courses count towards prerequisites such as English Comp?
Yes, but we either need a copy of your scores, or they have to show up on an official transcript with the course that they have fulfilled. We can't, if they go in and say you've got 8 credits of English, I have no idea what course that goes for. So we either need to have your scores, or to have it say you tested out of English 110 or something like that, so that we know that it actually fulfilled the requirement that we want. The same goes for the biology requirements. We can't just say you've got 12 credits of biology. It's got to say which courses, or we need a copy of your scores.
Mm-hmm. So this question is, if I say, okay, I need to do genetics, I still need to do genetics. I'm planning on doing that spring of 2019 at Iowa State. And then, I see a genetics course that works better in my schedule at,
yes,
the community college.
It doesn't matter, but you need to let us know. Otherwise, okay, we are going to be expecting that transcript from Iowa State with genetics on it. So if you change, it doesn't matter if you change, but you need to let us know if you've changed from what you originally told us you were going to do.
Okay. Do we accept online science courses with labs if it is through an accredited university?
We do. Right now, just the easiest thing to say is we do accept any of the University of New England pre-health prerequisites that they have. There are others. There's a lot of others that people send in that we have accepted. You just need to ask me, because I can't remember them all at one time.
Okay. So my college doesn't list labs on my transcript.
And that's fine. If it doesn't say lab, we just look it up to see if it has a lab.
Okay.
So that's no problem at all.
Perfect. For the last 45 credit hour GPA, should we calculate that for the current last 45, or leave it blank on VMCAS for it to be filled in once fall and spring grades are entered?
I guess I didn't know there was a spot for you to calculate it. We make those determinations in our office.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to calculate anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you use a different system for calculating GPA of international, like for instance, Canadian applicants?
International and Canadian are different, even though I know Canadian is, Canadian, we use the same system we use in America for calculating the GPAs. For the international, we use whatever the World Educational Services, which you have to submit your applications through that if it's an international other than Canadian, through that system, and then we use what they say the grade is.
Okay. Let's see here. So we put planned courses on the VMCAS for following fall and spring, correct? Yes.
Correct. That is exactly what we need.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter. We just need to know basically if you're taking prerequisites. We really don't. We need to know that you're going to be in school fall and spring. But if you want to put down 1 or 2 courses, we just know then to expect a transcript from you.
Okay. So I challenged Bio 1, and so you tested out a Bio 1 and it obtained a P for passing, but no actual grade.
As long as it's a test out, that's fine.
Okay. Great. So would advanced composition be the same thing as English composition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Would an upper level comparative physiology course count?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Great. How long is a course valid for?
We use a guideline of 8 years. And that if you say your general biology was taken your freshman year over 8 years ago, well, we probably wouldn't make you retake it. A lot depends upon, like I say, it's a guideline. If you took all your courses 20 years ago, yeah, we'd probably do a little more looking into it, but it also depends upon what you've been doing in the interim. If somebody's gone, did their undergraduate, did a master's work and then PhD, some of their original courses may be, older than 8 years, but we would look at that person being in an academic environment, providing it was all science work, there'd probably no problem with that. So it depends upon how long ago it actually was, what you've been doing in the interim.
Okay. So this says, I read that oral communication requirement is considered complete with with graduation from a bachelor's degree.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
If you're going to get a bachelor's degree by May, or I shouldn't say by May, by the end of the spring term, that fulfills 3 credits of English composition and the oral communications requirement.
Great. Here's a question about the supplemental. We'll hold off on that for just a second. So for the 2 English composition requirements, do they have to be kind of in a series? So for example, English 1 and then 101, then English 102, or can you take English 101 and then choose between something else? So how do English comp classes work,
the English comp, it can be your regular English comp 1 and 2, which a lot of schools have. It can be technical writing. It can be proposal writing. It can be business letter writing. It can be anything like that. It can be a writing intensive course, but the school has to identify it as a writing intensive course.
Okay. So this says, if we won't have a bachelor's degree by the time you enter vet school, do you need to enter your planned schedule into VMCAS to the point where you have your bachelor's degree completed?
Oh, no. We just need to know, because it's just an application period this year, so we just need to know your fall 18 and spring 19 courses.
Great. Will we receive a notification when our transcripts are verified?
That you look on VMCAS, you will be able to see when they were verified.
Yes. Yep. You have a status screen there. And I think that Tony had said that they were notifying for, you know, most of the steps
Yeah.
there too. So you'll probably receive
we
an email.
we will not notify you. You can look on your status page, and if it says we've received your VMCAS application, that means it's been verified. We don't put it down as received because we don't work on it until it is verified. So once it's verified, we mark down that it's received.
Great. Okay. So I took zoology at a community college and transferred as bio 2 to my current college. So she didn't have, or they didn't have to take it. Will that be accepted?
Yes, I mean, we would look at whatever the courses is. What we don't want you to do is take a biology that's organismal, like, because they change from college to college. And so if you took biology one place and it was basically the organismal portion, and you took it at another place and it was still the organismal portion, that wouldn't work. So we would want an organismal and a cellular. And unfortunately, not all schools are the same. So you may have the cellular portion in biology 1 or biology 2.
Okay. So if one of my prerequisites is not accepted, say for instance, the second semester of chemistry, would I be able to identify another class I have taken meeting that prerequisite?
Yes, as long as it's the course, as long as it meets our prerequisite course.
Okay, so in the academic review portion of the essay or of the application, do we take into consideration academic rigor? That's what this question.
Not really. What we do for the academic review, anatomy and physiology is one of the best cases for this. If you have taken 2 different courses that would still fulfill our anatomy and physiology, we give you the one with the best grade. Rigor is not, we've done assessments, we've had rigor scores before. They do not show any correlation with how well you'll do in vet school, so we no longer look at rigor because it doesn't show us anything.
Okay. So if, say, a degree was received by from a liberal arts college, so and it was a liberal arts major, which required a lot of writing, or writing intensive courses, would that satisfy English Comp?
Number one, if you've already graduated, yes, that would be half of it. If they have a writing across the curriculum, it has to be something that can be documented by the college that you've met their writing requirement. And that's what we look for. I think some schools have a communication A and a communication B. And if you've met those, you've met both the writing requirement and the oral communication requirement. So if you've met the institution's writing requirement, if they indicate that specific courses are writing intensive, those are what we look for if you don't have an exact English Comp 1 and English Comp 2.
Okay. Let's see, that's an essay question. We'll get to the essay question and character count and all of that. So would like a genetics of domesticated animals work for that?
For genetics?
For genetics.
Yes, it would.
Okay. Zoology we kind of talked about can be
it depends upon the zoology. Yep. A general zoology course with lab will not be anatomy and physiology. That would be an organismal general biology. That's what we would use it for. So it depends upon what the course is doing. Now, if it is comparative anatomy or comparative physiology, excuse me, those would work, but not just a general zoo course.
Okay. Okay, so as let's see, do physics with calculus give you any advantage in the academic?
No.
Review?
We accept either one. It can be algebra-based or calculus-based.
So graduate level courses we kind of talked about. So what about the quarter system? So quarter system versus semester system. Do they need to convert that themselves? Or?
No.
Okay.
that will, you put in exactly what is on your transcript. VMCAS will do the conversion, which is just, you divide your credits by 1.5. So we round up. If you've got 4 credits, 4 quarter credits, that comes out as 2.67 semester credits. We round that up to 3.
Okay. So a course like Introduction to Speech, would that count as oral communications?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. If you're using your bachelor's to meet the English Comp and oral communication prerequisite, what should you assign on the VMCAS?
You don't have to assign anything. We automatically look for the bachelor's degree if you haven't met those 2 requirements.
So I'm going to say last call for academic questions. We have 2 left to answer. And then what we'll do at the end is we'll kind of open it back up to any general questions. Knowing that especially for the prerequisite questions and about specific classes, that would be a good thing to utilize our message board that is kind of on the supplemental application portal to ask Kathy and her team that, those specific questions about, okay, at say University of Iowa, how does taking this specific course, or how might taking this specific course, help or hurt me or whatever. So so those are really good questions, the specific ones to include on your message board, and our academic reviewers will
because I'm not going to be able to answer you until I look up the courses.
So so they're happy to do that. Anyway, so if you're taking this courses this fall semester, will those be counted for the last 45? Yes, when we redo the calculations.
Yes, when we update calculations with fall grades, that will be included in the final decisions that the committee makes.
Mm-hmm. My school does not assign additional credits for labs. Will you accept those credits or courses with labs that are 3 credits? So like for our general bio.
I don't know about general bio. I'd have to look at the courses. I know that at University of Pennsylvania, they have organic, an organic course, or organic 1 and 2 are both 3 credits each, but they do include labs. We do take those. I believe there's a brief organic that's 2 quarters that we have accepted. So it depends upon the course, and that's again more of a specific. Yes, we do allow that. I just need to see what the course is and what school it's taken.
Okay. Let's see. How do they determine the academic cutoff?
That is based on previous years as to what, like, this is the first year we're not going to be including the GRE. So at the moment, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's based on previous years. So I'm going to guess they're going to base it on the scores received for the last 45 and the Science Gpa on last year. So it just kind of depends upon what they want to do, but it's usually based on giving people the benefit of the doubt. Most years it's been, the lowest end has been 2.5 in both the academic or the, science and the last 45. I won't guarantee that that's what it'll be this year. I can also tell you that having a 2.5 in both of those will not, you won't get in. So they try to make it lower than it could possibly be for you to be admitted.
Okay. So reviewing for those labs that don't have credits, the official transcript doesn't have a lab written. I know we answered this one, but
yes,
I think we missed
you don't need to write it down. We look it up if we don't already know, and a lot of them we already realize if they're 4 credits, they have a lab.
Okay. And then, so what about for for a prerequisite or a required science, would graduate courses work for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Graduate courses work as long as they have the equivalent material within the course.
Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and pause our academic portion as far as questions go and everything. we've gotten some great questions about, wait list and essays and all of those, and we'll get to those. But let's talk just a little bit about the committee review, and then I'll kind of right as we're wrapping up that topic, I'll ask for questions again from that. So we tried to compile the questions that you guys submitted when you registered, and kind of the frequently asked questions that we usually get into kind of in a nutshell our committee review. So hold off on questions, and then we'll ramp back up to the questions here in just a little bit. So oops, let's see here. There we go. So going on to our committee review, like we talked about, it's the other 50% of your score. So we take into consideration all of the things that you see there on the screen. Work experience, animal veterinary research experience. We're looking for at least 200 hours of quality animal veterinary and or research experience. So a lot of students always ask, well, what if I don't have any research? That's okay. We're looking for kind of a mix of any of those three. So talking about experience for just a second. So when we're looking at things that maybe are research with a veterinarian, or helping out a veterinarian who's also doing research, how do students make the choice about where to file those different types of experience?
Okay, if it's research experience, you do have a choice. I would put it under research experience, but you can also put it under employment if you want to. I guess I would put it under research. Research experience does not have to be specifically animal related. There's a lot of research that goes on where people don't really handle animals at all. They're doing research on various human diseases using animal models, things like that. And you may not be handling the actual animal. If you are actually working with the results, dealing with getting specimens, things like that, that's research experience. If you come in daily to wash pipettes or flasks or things like that, that is not research experience. So the research experience has to be actual involvement in whatever project it is.
Mm-hmm. So then, as far as I know we got this question the other day, as far as that experience that maybe they started out as a kennel, attendant, and then they worked up to, maybe shadowing in that clinic, and then they started kind of a part-time job as a vet assistant. How do you handle things where your roles kind of change?
That all needs to be under one experience. You just need to explain that you don't want to enter it as a different experience for each time you changed positions or responsibilities. You want to enter it under one and explain that I started out as a kennel attendant. Then, I shadowed the vet for a while doing, as they did surgeries, or if you were out on calls, if it was a large animal vet, things like that. Then they hired you, you say, then I was hired and this is what I did when I was hired. What you don't want to do is split up everything so you have a lot of different little entries. If you've worked at one place, then it should all be under one entry.
Okay. So as far as what about being a TA where you might get credit, academic credit for that, but you're also, would you put that under work or extracurricular? Or?
It depends upon what type of, what the TA was. We have a lot of people that are TAs, undergraduate TAs in our in the animal science, anatomy, and physiology course. If you worked with that, if you were in charge of labs, things like that, that would be animal experience. It wouldn't be research because you're not doing research, but you're putting out all the anatomy or physiology lab specimens, things like that. If you're responsible for answering questions, that would be animal experience. It's also employment, but you just put it down as animal experience and you are getting paid.
Okay. Oops, let's see, keeps jumping on me. Okay, so then how does, where would a vet tech, or going through vet tech school, would that apply to experience?
Schooling is not experience. So if you took an embryo transfer class, that's great, but that's not experience. Experience has to be something that you do outside of the academic field. So having a vet tech degree is great. If you did an internship, that would be considered a little bit, but our committee, we haven't said this, but we speak for Iowa State only.
Mm-hmm.
Every vet school is different. So what I'm saying here applies to Iowa State. It may not apply to Wisconsin or Cornell or Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to remember that we're speaking for Iowa State only.
Yep.
Our committee wants experience to be something where you had to go out, work with somebody different, that you had to take on the responsibility of getting that experience. If it's all canned for you, as in a course or, a setup internship, though the internships they do look at a little bit differently. They don't want it canned. They want you to have had some responsibility in getting that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that when they're looking at that too, they're looking at a variety of things, not just animal and veterinarian research experience, but also, don't discount if you worked at, McDonald's or the grocery store or whatever, some people don't put anything that wasn't, specifically related to veterinary medicine on their application, where, you learn a lot about customer service and things like that from those work outside.
And those would be what you put under employment,
Mm-hmm.
just the ones that aren't connected to animal or veterinary or research experience.
Yep. So we kind of talked about this, if you're hired as, an intern or something like that, and then you go to full-time employment, that's all under one. You just put that kind of in your description. So let's talk a little bit about letters of reference, and then we'll move on, and then we'll get to your guys' questions here. So letters of reference, for Iowa State, we do require 3 letters of recommendation, and I think that's usually the lowest number that colleges. So we require 3, but we will read 6. If you give us 6, we're going to read up to 6. So if you submit 6 letters of recommendation, we're going to read them all. So hopefully you've picked those people now 20 days before the application. I would assume that a lot of you have picked your references, and you've already, maybe nagged them once or twice about getting their letter turned in. But those should be some people who you are familiar with and who are really familiar with you. We want, that good insight into who you are, and that's a good way to get them is from those people that you've worked with or volunteered for, or they're your mentors or whatever you've learned from. So keep that in mind. And then one is strongly encouraged to be from a veterinarian. We just talked about all this experience you're getting with animals and veterinarians, and I think we kind of the committee kind of looks sideways at people who maybe don't have a letter from a veterinarian, even though they may have hundreds, of hours of experience working in a vet clinic, or shadowing in a vet clinic. Did you want to add anything about letters?
Just the one thing is that really make sure you know your evaluator, because every year, it's a handful, but every year we get letters of reference that say this person should not be a veterinarian for whatever reason. And so make sure you know who you're asking letters from, just because I don't understand how people don't know that person is not going to give them a good reference. So just be careful as who you ask. Yeah.
Okay, so the other part of our committee review is the essays. So you'll write 3 essays that are general VMCAS questions. And then we do have a supplemental question, which is on the VMCAS site. That's where you're going to find that. And it's on diversity, and kind of what unique thing you bring to Iowa State. We do really look at those community service leadership honors, and we'll look at personal development. And then there is a spot to put in special circumstances as well. So if there's something that you really feel like the committee needs to know, that's a good place to put that in there. I would say, I think you say it's pretty rare that someone, fills in that box, but it is a good spot to say, I wasn't able to say this anywhere else on the, application, or let the committee know about something anywhere else on the application.
I think it's called the explanation statement in VMCAS. But one thing I say about that on that explanation statement, for us, and this is again just for Iowa State, the committee will not see your transcripts. They will only see the composite scores that are calculated in our office. They did this because we assessed it quite a few years ago now, and there was too much correlation between grades and the committee score. So obviously if you got a 4-point, your committee score had to be good, or if you didn't have a 4-point, you had a 2.9, well then you're obviously not going to be a good veterinarian. And so the grades were biasing the committee scores, and they weren't supposed to be looking at that. They voted to not see any of this. So again, only a handful, maybe up for discussion before the whole committee. It's not very many, maybe 10 to 12 each year. So by far and large, your transcripts, your grades aren't going to be seen by the committee. So don't bring up the fact that, well, I bombed organic chemistry once because, I don't know, I was sick that semester. Or, don't bring attention to your grades, where you might have done poorly, particularly if it didn't impact your overall grade point very much, because that brings their attention to it and actually kind of gives a negative feel to your application. They probably won't see it. It doesn't matter. They do see your composite GPAs. So some people put that down, and I just say don't do it unless you really feel you need to tell the world that you did poorly in organic chemistry or whatever, physics, whatever course. Mm-hmm. Just because for us, and again, for Iowa State, our committee won't see any of that, and it probably won't impact you very much. It probably impacts you more when you bring attention to it.
Mm-hmm. So what might be a good example of a student's special circumstances? A
special circumstance is sometimes, sometimes we have serious extenuating circumstances, such as you were in a car accident and you tried to keep up during that semester and you didn't. You might have had a parent was ill, and so you had to go home during that time. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we've had. Can't think of any more, right? But it has to be, we use that as something serious. You were diagnosed with a learning disability halfway through undergraduate. Something that's severe and that had really impacted you. You also need to tell them how you overcame that. That's where our committee wants to see special circumstances, something that really had a large impact on you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a few tips on the essays. So I think the things, that as Kathy and I talk, the things that I've learned that the admissions committee is really interested in and really kind of takes to heart are, one is to answer the question. If there's a question about your, or the question about attributes. That's the one I'm looking for. Attributes that a veterinarian possesses, but you kind of morph it into, you want to talk more about your career goals and you didn't get enough opportunity to talk about your career goals in that essay. And so it devolves into another kind of career goals part 2. We want to see you answer the questions. So we want you to talk about in that essay about attributes that a veterinarian possesses. We want you to talk about the attributes. In that career goals, we want you to stick to your, career goal your career goals. It's okay to, and you might want to finesse it a little bit differently than this, but to say, as a veterinarian, my career goals are, XYZ, to work with large animals and, whatever. And you can say, I've, come to know this passion through, the inspirational, veterinarians I've worked with or whatever, but really focus it on you. Also, don't use it as a way to reiterate all of the experiences. The essay or the admissions committee will look at your experiences. So they'll already have read those or will read them depending on where they are, where they fall in the packet. Okay, so they will have read those. So then ask for a few people to proofread your essay, all of your essays. Get somebody who's really great at grammar and, who loves to comment, which form of there you used incorrectly on your Facebook post or whatever it is. Ask for someone who knows you really well, to talk, to make sure that they, they can kind of sometimes pick out things that you forgot to talk about, or maybe, that you, really should talk about and, kind of left out or, minimalized in your essay. But then Kathy had a really great, point about.
You also want to get somebody who doesn't know you very well. A lot of times when somebody who knows you well reads it, they have all the background, so they fill in things. If somebody doesn't know you very well and has a question about something, saying, this doesn't make sense, I don't understand this, the committee most likely will have that too, because they don't have the background of knowing kind of what your goals are and things you want to do. So I do say, and it could be the grammar person for that matter, just somebody who doesn't know you very well, so that if you've kind of forgotten to flesh out something and if it doesn't make sense to that person, it's probably not going to make sense to the committee.
Yep. So be realistic with your career goals. Talk about, what you might want to do. Maybe your end goal is, owning your own clinic, where you use, some of your hours to, give back to the community or, rescue animals or something like that. But be realistic, knowing that probably right out of the gate, I think our average student loan debt is about $136,000. So knowing that you'll end up with at least some student loan debt, it may not be realistic on day one to buy and open a practice and give back half of your hours to, to volunteer work. It may be for you. I don't know what your situation is, but kind of be realistic about that. And if that is your situation, then say, hey, this is where I am and this is how I can do this. But be realistic with those career goals. I think, all of us really have that heart to, save the world, right? We want to give back. We want to help people. That's why you're, hoping to go into this profession. For a lot of people, you're motivated by that. But it's okay to say, hey, I know I'm going to have student loans and, need to
You're going to be working for somebody and you probably can't make all the decisions that you want to make because you're working for somebody else who basically holds the purse strings to everything.
Absolutely. So use examples, but again, don't reiterate your experience. And then be professional. Remember that, as much as we have always loved, dogs and cats and cows and goats and whatever else, if you were going into medical school, you wouldn't say, I've always loved humans and that's why I'm going into medicine, or, human medicine. So kind of be professional. Remember that you really want to, it's really about the medicine. There's a lot of careers that you can go into that work with animals, but you chose veterinary medicine for a reason over, running a shelter or,
breeding animals, training animals, things like that. You want to be into veterinary medicine, so you do have to address what you enjoy about the medicine part of it.
Absolutely. So I think with that, we've gotten some questions rolling in. So we're going to go ahead and answer some of those. So on the supplemental application, so that's part of it too. Yes, there is a supplemental application. Excuse me. Where it asks for the activities and years we were doing them. Should we only include up till now, or can we say, 2019 if there's something that they're working on?
No, because they only want to know what you've done, not what you plan to do. So you just want to, you can say you've done something to the present time, but you can't go and say, I know there's some people says, well, I'm going to be working for somebody starting October. Well, they're not going to take that into consideration because you haven't done it yet.
So this says, should we answer all possible essay spaces in VMCAS, even the 2,000 character explanation essay, if you've had no issues? If you've had no issues,
don't answer it.
You don't have to fill in that explanation statement. But the other ones, yes, you should. So for the 3 VMCAS essay questions, and then any supplemental questions, whether it's on the, so for ours, it's on the Iowa State page of VMCAS. So when you're in your kind of additional program materials or something, I can't remember right offhand what that was titled, but so any additional essays that are asking you a question, absolutely. That explanation statement, though, is really just for those kind of special circumstances.
And you don't have to, reading that question, you don't have to fill up every character in the essay. If you feel you've said what you wanted to say, that's good enough. I mean, don't just add words to add words.
Okay, so let's go back to research for just a little bit. So collecting data for research. So maybe you're not actually, going through that data, but what would
that would be under research? Yes,
okay.
Collecting data and knowing what's good data, what's bad data. Yes, that you should include.
Great. So in terms of description or key responsibilities under experiences, how detailed do you want that information? Are you looking for a list of duties or a short paragraph?
Basically, a short paragraph. You can say assisted in surgery. You can say, made up surgery packs, walked dogs. But it doesn't, what you don't want to do is put down every little thing you did. You could say served as receptionist, checking clients in, but you don't have to say checking clients in, weighing the animal, not all the little tiny things in each responsibility. Again, they're reading hundreds of these. You lose them if you put too much little detail in there.
Okay, let's see here. When describing experiences, do you want bullet points or?
Okay, we got that one before. Yeah. I suggest different sentences separated by semicolons, only because if you bullet things, you use a lot of white space and you might not be able to put everything in, because in VMCAS, space counts as part of the total number of characters.
Yeah. So if I worked at an equine hospital every summer for 4 years, should I enter them in VMCAS separately since there were multiple start and finish dates?
No, I would put the start date, the finish date, and then say in your description, worked the summers, or you could say worked, May through August 2018, 2019, or 2016, 17, and 18. So you want that in one experience. And then you can put total hours. You can figure out approximately how many hours a week you worked for those 3 months, and then put that in total hours. You don't want to enter them separately because you lose the people in there. There's just too many entries and you lose them.
Okay. So I know I've unmuted myself, but that thing never went away. So I'm sorry if you guys have seen that the whole time. Maybe you didn't though. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted there. Does it matter what school you go to in consideration for the committee review?
Absolutely not. They do not look at what schools you go to. I know some schools are considered more rigorous than others. However, it often depends upon the professor that teaches a course. You can have two different professors. One is extremely hard professor you do in the course. The same course taught by another one is much more easier. No, they've just decided it is too difficult to actually determine what is more rigorous.
So if we're planning to help with the research project after the deadline of the application, is there a way to add it to the application?
No. Once we get the application, we start sending them out to the committee. So no, it's just impossible to add things after the fact.
Okay. So if you worked at a research center, for example, shouldn't I separate them into research, animal, and vet experience depending on the hours I spent in each?
No. Enter it one place. I guess I would enter that probably if you worked under a veterinarian at any time. Under veterinary experience, again, explain the different responsibilities you had in the different areas. Because they don't want to see it 3 times. It's really hard to explain. And again, I'm speaking for Iowa State, but our reviewers will be in a probably less than 3 month time period, be reviewing hundreds of these. You just don't want to put a lot of stuff there because they're going to start skimming if you have 5 entries with the same place.
Where would you put a publication?
I would put that under honors and awards. That tends to be the place that I put things like people were asking about specific certifications, like a certified vet tech and things like that. Put it under honors and awards. Yeah.
Okay. So this question is about, so we have a 2+2 partnership with UNL. And so at their application workshop, some committee members said that they like to see experience with pets. So for us, we don't count pet ownership as experience, but some schools do. So, if you're applying to multiple schools and they, other schools want you to put pet experience, then
you should put it in
that.
And like if you're a Nebraskan, yes, they do look at that. Our committee does not, just because in most cases, unless it's a business and something you've been doing when you were older, they have no way of knowing whether mom and dad, brother or sister took care of the animals, how much you actually did, because there's no way of telling that. You're just saying, I've owned pets for this long and I did all this, but there's no supervisor. There's nothing that they can go back. So our committee does not look at pet ownership as an experience, as a really valid experience.
So do you take into account different areas of work experience outside of veterinary during the committee review? Yes. And does it work in an applicant's favor if you see that they have example, as an assistant in a legal office or in childcare or something?
There's so many other outside of medical experience that you can learn in other fields. If you work in retail, customer service, and you have to know customer service if you're going to be a practicing veterinarian. So yes, it is very valuable to put in other experiences.
So what if you owned your own animal related business? Would that count as animal experience?
That would be animal experience, yes. And if it's a business and you actually did something for money, had clients, yes. If you trained your own horse, no.
So if I attended an agricultural high school where I received a lot of hands-on experience, would that be considered as animal experience?
Probably not, because it's academic. Things were lined up so you could get that experience. Particularly, they would have expected you unless you got certifications. Now, I know some people who got certified in various areas by going to an agricultural high school, but unless there's some way of saying it's different than just a regular class, they want to see that you had enough motivation to go out and try to find your own experiences versus just saying, I want a canned program so that I can get experience.
Mm-hmm. So this is it acceptable to estimate hours from experiences such as sports in high school? I would say
yes.
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 Yeah.
Just be realistic. The other thing is high school. We take high school and forward. Anything prior to that, they don't want to see.
Okay, so if you submit, so kind of switching gears to the letters of recommendation real quick. So if you submit your application and there are still letters of recommendation pending, those can still be submitted, correct?
Right. You have until all your evaluators have till September 17th, 11:59 Eastern Standard Time to get their letters of recommendation in. You may see when we go through and everything's verified, but you're missing letters of evaluation, you may see your application, your status listed as incomplete. And the reason it's incomplete is because VMCAS doesn't have everything that you said you were going to have in that application.
Would a non-veterinary related boss be considered a good recommendation?
It depends upon if they know you really well and can speak. The evaluations, well, the little chart that they fill out has 2 animal questions, and that is what's your ability with large animals and what's your ability with small animals. Most of the other questions are behavioral questions. Do you take criticism well? Are you prompt? Do you work as a team member? So that doesn't have to be veterinary related. That just needs to be somebody who knows you well and has observed you in a work environment. So yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And then, so there was a question up here. So would a person who submits 3 letters of recommendation have less of a chance than someone who submits 6?
It depends upon the letters of evaluation. Yeah. And the other thing, just for letters of evaluation, if you work for a practice that has 3 veterinarians and they're all small animal veterinarians, don't have each one of them submit a letter. They're all going to say pretty much the same thing. If you worked for a clinic that was a mixed animal practice and you did equine, you worked with an equine vet, and then you worked with a companion animal vet, or I guess small animal vet, yes, that would be acceptable because they've seen you possibly in a field experience versus an office experience. So they can speak to 2 different things. But if they're all going to say the same thing, that's not going to help you.
You read ahead to the next question.
Oh, I did? Sorry.
No, that's okay.
That's a typical
worked perfect. It was like the very next question was all about that. Okay. So let's see here. Where would study abroad fall in the experience?
I put that in an activity thing. I know some of these are just, they're things you want and you should tell them, but there's no good place for them. I put study abroad under activities.
So what if you essentially run out of room in the description word limit? Is there, so like
cut it down.
Okay. Yeah.
That's really put the most things you feel are most important, because if you've assisted in surgeries, if you've given injections, I don't know whether you've given clients when they discharge the animal, if you've given them their instructions, things like that, that's going to be much more important than saying you helped clean kennels or walk dogs. So put the things you felt were the most responsible and the most important to you down, and take out some of the little stuff.
So this person has planned to talk about like that incomplete or that withdraw in their explanation statement.
For Iowa State, we don't want to hear it.
Okay. For another, yeah.
For another, and that's why you need to find out from each university, because we don't worry about withdrawals. They don't count one way or the other. So to bring attention to it for us is not good. There may be another school, however. So you've got to know each of the schools you plan to apply. You need to know what they're each looking for, and then find the best way to put it all together.
So here's another question about the explanation statement. So if a student worked 30 to 40 hours a week throughout undergrad, cutting down on those student loans or maybe eliminating them altogether, and is that something that they might talk about in that explanation statement?
They could, but they definitely need to put that 30 to 40 hour job under employment, whether it's veterinary or animal related or not. And yes, you can say that. You can say something about, you know the expense of vet school. You're trying to keep your expenses down in undergrad. So definitely, yes, that's something you can and should put down. But it should be under employment as well.
Yeah. So again, about the special circumstances, if you disclose an academic or a learning disability or physical disability, anything like that, would that hurt their application?
That will not hurt your application. I'm very confident in that. We are as unbiased, I believe, as an unbiased a committee as possible when you're dealing with human beings evaluating. You don't have to. There's absolutely nothing that you have to disclose. But if you feel, and we do have people that do disclose this, and that's the other thing, is that might also help with the diversity essay. We have people disclose different things in the diversity essay that they don't have to disclose. That is totally up to the person. It will not. I have almost 100% confidence it will not impact your acceptance or non-acceptance.
Yeah. So I know we've got a lot of questions still to go through. There's a few things that I think we want to mention, because I think we said that our time here was going to be an hour and a half. So I want to make sure that we're respectful to those people who want to log off after an hour and a half. So let's go through just a few things really quickly. We'll go back to question and answers, and we can we can stay until all the questions are answered. So, and if you need to log off, please feel free to send an email back to the that application webinar invitation. That'll go to me, and then I can sort between, if it's a question about the college in general, I'll be happy to answer those, and then we'll pass them to Kathy. Yeah. You can also put a question on your message board as well.
If we don't answer your question and you are an applicant, please put a message on your message board. For one thing, it's in writing then, and it's with your application, so both of us, both you and our office, know what has been said. So that's always good.
Absolutely. Okay, so here we go. Few last things, and then we'll go back to those questions. Okay. So we did talk about the interviews are going to be discontinued this year. So we're reevaluating that interview process. We have a new dean named Dr. Dan Grooms from Michigan State is becoming a cyclone, and he's gonna be our leader. We're really excited about that. Hopefully we'll be able to get you guys on a webinar or once we figure out what we did wrong with YouTube or Facebook Live, we'll
figure that
do it there too. So we're really excited about that, and we're not sure kind of what the future of interviews looks like for Iowa State. So we're holding off this year. We will have 5 open houses for you. You'll be invited to the people who are applying this year. We ask that they, that these dates are reserved for people who have submitted an application this year. Or will by September 17th submit an application this year, mostly because a lot of this information will change then for the following years too. Tuition gets updated, student experiences sometimes are slightly different and everything like that. So these are just for applicants, but you'll see there that there's 4 Saturdays and then a Friday afternoon. So we'll invite you to campus. We'll do, student panels, and you'll get to visit with some of our faculty and staff and student organizations and everything. So really cool days where you guys get to, instead of us interviewing you, you guys kind of get to, flip that around and really ask as many questions as you want about Iowa State and really see if it's a good fit for you. And we'll also do things like this. We'll do Skype calls and webinars and virtual tours and all of that kind of stuff. So those are available on our website. So if you go to, actually we'll switch here. So if you go to vetmed.iastate.edu, go to the Future Students tab and then click Apply, you'll see 2018-19 applicant events, and all of those are able to be registered there. You'll see here just kind of a calendar. You can also find that if you go to vetmed.iastate.edu, click on the Future Students tab, click Apply, you'll see an application checklist, which will give you all of these dates, as well as information like where to send your fall transcripts and your spring transcripts, all of that kind of stuff. So
that's also available on your status page.
It is, yes.
When you first open up your supplemental. So.
Absolutely. So, okay. So what makes an outstanding applicant? We wanted to kind of give you just a few things that our admissions committee really values in applicants to the college. So you'll see there, they really are showing an understanding of the profession. That would be in the experiences that you've had, in the way you write your essays, in the letters of recommendation that connect.
The one thing that some people don't understand is that the experience is not to teach you to be a veterinarian or to learn technical skills. They want to make sure you understand what you're getting into. They want you to know what the profession is about so that you don't get here and all of a sudden, once you realize what the profession is about, you say, I really don't want to do this, after you've already spent a semester's worth of money to go to vet school. Mm-hmm. So the idea of experience is to teach you whether you really want to do this or not, and that goes into what you write on your on the essays. So you need to be able to not tell what your experiences are, but show what experiences gave you a good understanding of the profession.
Absolutely. So yeah, having that good understanding of the profession, but also understanding that there's life outside of veterinary medicine too. So we're looking for someone who's given back to their community, who is a well-rounded person, not just a well-rounded student, but a well-rounded person, and someone who recognizes the importance of not only continuing education, so going through vet school and continuing on that education and kind of being a lifelong learner, but also somebody who realizes the importance of educating their clients and their community too. So, and then I keep clicking things. There we go. So here's just a few helpful hints that we've got for you, or helpful tips. So before you hit submit, and I know you may be staying up, relatively late on September 17th, but read through your application one last time, even if you think, yes, I've answered everything. Every year we get applications where instead of an essay on their on the impact that veterinarians have in society, they say insert essay here, or text, or whatever, just because they had to fill something in to get to the next page. So make sure that everything that you need to fill out is filled out. Make sure that your answers are succinct. So no, you don't have to use every single character count or, character that's available to you, but, are you succinct? Are you, kind of taking into consideration that, this person is also in my, application printed out is, I don't know, are they usually like 30 to 40 pages, maybe more, maybe less, I don't know. But that person is reading a lot of applications. So get materials in by the deadline stated. If you know, or if you see a problem or foresee a problem that, hey, you know what, August, what is it, August 29th, and I haven't heard from that community college where I took the summer course that I needed. Get in touch with them. You know, make sure that you're on them. Make sure you're on your letters of, you know, your references that are handing in letters for you. You know, it's okay to say, I'm really excited about vet school, you know, just wondering if there's anything I can do to help you get that letter in. So get materials in. Like I think Kathy always says, you know, we can, or she can, I have no authority to help you out, but I can at least listen to you. But she can help you out before the deadline.
Yeah, if you see a problem or even are just slightly concerned about a problem, let me know before the deadline. I can't help you after everything is done. I get people that'll call me a month later and say, well, this person didn't get their evaluation in because this happened. I can't do anything at that point. If you are afraid of something happening that you think isn't going to go right, let me know. We want to help you get everything right, but we can't help you after the deadline's passed. So please get in touch with, put a message on the message board. Let us know you think there's a problem coming up. And even if it's not a problem, that's fine. But if you don't let us know ahead of time, we just can't help you.
Generally, I feel like the students who keep in communication with us are a lot of the students we see walking through the door of our vet school or some other vet school, you know. So it's the students who probably don't log on to a, you know, a webinar about helping you with your application or whatever, that are the students that maybe have a more difficult time. So follow up, stay in communication. Kathy and I really, I mean, both of us
there's
are
no stupid questions.
Focused.
Yeah, there's no stupid question. Even if you think, oh, they're going to think I'm a real idiot if I ask this, please ask it. I'd much rather answer you, even if it's something simple, than to have you sit there and maybe the answer wasn't as simple as you thought it might be. So yes, please just keep in contact with us.
I have been in this job for 2 years, and I have asked Kathy a lot of questions that I think she probably thinks I'm crazy for asking. No. But I mean, that's what's awesome, is that, you know, we can answer your questions, and we like doing that. So that was all of that. So if you need to go, if your question has not been answered yet, we're gonna march down the questions. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, for logging on, or whatever, however you say it, for a webinar. But thank you, and we'll keep going on those questions. So if you want to stay till your question is answered, please feel free. If you need to go, this will be up on our YouTube channel as a recording tomorrow morning, as soon as I can get it all uploaded.
And so, remember, you can put a message on your message board anytime, and it will be answered. And we try to pride ourselves on a turnaround of 24 hours. As it gets right at September 17th, it might not be quite that quick, but you will get answered, and definitely a message is going to go quicker than a phone call. Unless you're really panicked.
Yeah. Okay. So this question number 1, comes from, it says, so if I claimed residency in a different state, but my mother lives in Iowa, do I by chance still get in-state tuition?
Possibly. Anybody who has residency questions, please send me a message. I will send you the information of the people that handle residency for the university. If your mother's working here and she's paying Iowa taxes, there's a very good chance that you could get in-state. I can't answer that question, but the sooner we get it answered, for Iowa State, then I can change your residency so that we are looking at you as an Iowa resident versus a non-resident. So yes, get in touch with me. I'll give you all the information you need, people you need to talk to.
So question about the wait list. Is there more than one wait list?
No, there is one wait list. We have different applicant pools to start with. Once we go through the original admits, it becomes one wait list. So then we just rank them, and you're number 1 through however they might
Yeah.
want to go through. So, and that's always determined at the end of the year or end of the cycle.
Would the exception to that be Nebraska?
Yes.
The Nebraska program.
Right. The Nebraska program, once we have done your academic review and you see that your application has been forwarded to Nebraska, you will see that as a status. We have nothing more to do with the Nebraska. That's strictly through the Nebraska Admissions Committee and the people at UNL.
So do we have to take an anatomy and physiology course, or will one of those suffice?
One will suffice.
Okay.
You can have a combination, or you can have one or the other.
Okay. So what about credit for internships? So this school required a 3-credit internship course.
Yes, if it was an academic course, it will be included. It's just when you get into graduate work where we don't use some of the, if it's undergraduate, we use it. If you have undergraduate research, we will use it. When you get into graduate school, then we start changing things around by not using seminars or research. Sometimes they have different discussion groups, so those we don't use the grades for.
So if I stated a descending trend academically in my explanation statement, instead of stating the specific classes, would that be viewed negatively?
Probably, because you're saying a descending, that means you kept doing worse. So yes, I would not, unless you're going to use in the explanation statement what caused that and what you did to overcome it. I would not put that in, because that's just telling them, well, hey, yeah, my academics got worse. And so without more explanation as to why and how you countered that, I would not put that in.
So I think we should clarify about using experiences to explain, where you arrive in an essay.
Right. What you want to do, you can, okay. What we have is people put experiences in every essay because they just want to tell people that this is what I did, and there's no personal statement, and they don't have any place to put that. We want you to use 1 or 2 experience. If you say my career goal is to work with a large animal practitioner, or to be a large animal practitioner, you can say, I want to do this because in my experience with such and such, I learned that I enjoyed the outdoor work of being a large animal practitioner. I'm not sure how truthful that is, but that I enjoyed the communication between the veterinarian and the producer. You don't want to say because I helped pull a calf. You want to back up why you want to do it with what you liked about the experience. You don't want to go in and I want to be a large animal practitioner because I pulled calves. I'm trying to think of different things. Because I'm not a veterinarian, I can't, there's like a prolapsed uterus or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know. But you don't want to say the specific things you dealt with. You have to have what you enjoyed about it. And remember always to put in something about the medicine part of it. Small animals, it can be great. You like to work with little cute, cuddly animals. But you need to put in what about why, did you enjoy the surgery? Why did you enjoy the surgery? Did you enjoy seeing the veterinarian diagnose something because it was like solving a puzzle? Those are the types of things they want. They really don't care that you gave injections or monitored the animal as they came out of anesthesia. They want your experiences to say why, why you want to do it based on your experience. For attributes, what attributes did you see the veterinarians you worked with exhibiting, and how did you see them contributing? Things like that's what they're looking for. It's not to reiterate the individual things you did in your experiences.
Yeah. So is diversity in experience better or preferred?
No, it really doesn't make any difference, providing your experience backs up what you say you want to do. And The only time I would consider it as being important is if you say, I really haven't decided yet. I've looked at this, this, and this. I'm torn between these two. In that case, yes, having a diversity to say, hey, I've exposed myself to all these things and I'm still not sure what I want to do. That's when it would be important.
Yeah. Does applying to multiple vet schools make you more competitive?
No. When VMCAS first started years and years ago, I believe we got up to 1,900 or some odd applications. A lot of those people were not qualified. If they're not qualified at Iowa State, they're not qualified at a lot of schools. You need, if your experiences and grades are going to make you competitive, and then that case you're going to be competitive at a lot of schools, or you're not going to be competitive at a lot of schools. So just applying does not give you a better chance of getting in by applying to more schools.
Yeah. And we don't see that you're applying to, like on the application.
We don't see it.
Yeah.
We don't know how many schools you're applying to until the end. We will get, for everybody that applies to Iowa State, we will know what schools you've applied to. This is after decisions are made. We know what schools you've applied to and what your status was at each school. And I've seen people that have applied to 17, 18 schools. That's an awful lot of money. And chances are, if you're not competitive at one of those schools, you're probably not really competitive at a lot.
So I did a project, this question says, if I did a project as part of my honors program and presented it at a research conference, is this considered research experience?
If it was a research project, yes. And you should also put the presentation under the honors and awards.
Okay. If you're a current Iowa State student, you don't have to submit payment for the Iowa State supplemental application, correct?
Correct. If you're a degree-seeking student, if you've just taken 1 or 2 courses, no, you have to pay. But if you're a degree-seeking student, no, you do not need to pay.
Okay. So for the supplemental application, do the activities and awards from high school and college need to be ones from school, or can they be outside school activity?
Yes, they can be. It's just what we're looking for is the time period. So your high school time period or your college time period, but they can be community organizations. It can be a whole variety of things.
So if you're offered admission to Iowa State, you moving here permanently, this says with a fiance, after 1 year, is it possible to claim in-state tuition? Or would I be?
Probably not, because your initial reason for coming here is education. And that's one of the things that the Iowa schools, like the University of Iowa and University of Northern Iowa, if you move to Iowa for educational purposes, you are still considered a non-resident person. There are some ins and outs that I don't know about. There's also some military exceptions. Again, if you have questions about residency, let me give you the names of the people at the university that handle that. And I am not the expert, and so they can tell you, okay, yes or no, or it's very likely or it's very not likely.
So again, with the explanation statement, is this a good place to maybe explain an interruption in study for like 5 years? Say the person went out and got a job. And
I think there's something on the VMCAS application where if you weren't in school for 3 months or something like that, they want you to explain why. So yes, that's a perfect place to say, this is what I was doing.
What would you consider working as a lab assistant in a veterinary diagnostic lab as research experience?
Yes, that would be research experience. It would also probably be employment.
Okay. I shadowed several vets at the same clinic. Can I list this as one experience and mention it in the description box?
Yes.
Yes. How do I put total hours for veterinary experience I've done as a child? I had to care for for chickens on my grandpa's farm and the fish he caught from feeding to slaughtering to selling from 6 to 10 years old before I moved to the US?
You can put that down. Since you said it was outside of the US, they might give it more credibility. Truthfully, here in the US, if a farm's person who was born and raised on a farm said that they worked from 6 to 10 years old and had that responsibility, for the most part, the committee would probably not believe them. So you might want to, in that, explain your situation. If again, because I know cultures are very different, and I truly understand that 6 to 10 years old, you could be totally responsible for taking care of them. So I would explain what the situation was, as well as saying you took care of them.
How detailed should we be about high school experiences?
Again, it depends upon how important it was to you. If you felt it really had a big impact on you, you should be more detailed. If it's something little, no, you don't need to be. But again, if you felt it had a big impact on your decision to be a veterinarian or what you did in the future after high school, I'd say be a little more detailed on it.
What would be a good number of experiences to include in VMCAS? What would be considered overkill?
Okay, depending upon how many experiences you had, I usually tell people that have a lot and that have like maybe some very good experience, either animal experience, working at, on a farm with a cattle operation, things like that in later years, or in your college, post-high school years, particularly if you're responsible for part of a family farm. If you have long hours as working at a veterinary clinic, don't put anything less than 30, 40 hours in your experiences, because the more little experiences, unless they're unique, you lose your good experiences in all these little different experiences. The one experience that a person had, and it was for 3 hours, that I felt was important enough to put in, was that because her father was an anesthesiologist at a hospital, a gorilla had broken its jaw at a local zoo. She got to scrub in and watch that surgery. And she had some good kind of comparisons between people and animals and things like that, and the whole One Health thing. She got something different out of that. So that was a very unique experience. But don't put in, if you spent 16 hours with a vet one weekend and you've had so many other better experiences, don't put in every experience. Put in your most important experiences. Otherwise, I've seen people with 2 to 3 pages of experiences, and you just lose the good experiences in all this other little stuff that really isn't as important. So pay attention to that when you put everything down.
Okay. So what about, I'm sorry,
No.
I don't know what this certification is.
And I don't either. FAMACHA. I have not heard of that, so I can't tell you.
But if that, yeah, for any certifications, if you're
if it's something you worked for and had to school for and everything, I would put it down. I would definitely say with something like that we do not understand. There may be some people on the committee that don't understand, so spell out what the certification is.
Yep. If I helped my mom at a store and was the cashier for her during the holidays, would you consider that experience?
That would be employment.
That would be work.
Yeah, that would be general employment or work experience.
Yep.
Yes.
So what if high school's been a long ways away?
You don't have to put anything down then. I mean, we have such a variety of ages that apply to vet school. We have admitted somebody in their 50s this year, and we've done that in the past. No, you can ignore your high school.
So if you're CPR or first aid certified, but it was organized by like a club or a class, do you put those as experiences? put them both under the club description?
I would just put it down that you're certified in those under the honors and awards, because it's really isn't that, it doesn't make any difference that it was a club experience. It would be, to me, that would be more important to just say, I am certified in CPR and whatever else. As and you can say when, and you know, and things like that, but to me it's just more important that you were certified.
Yeah. Does it increase your chance to work with or for a veterinary specialist versus like a general practitioner?
It makes no difference unless it's something that you particularly are interested in. You can say that yes, you got more experience in the area you're interested in because you worked with a specialist, but that it's kind of like references from somebody who's the president of a university or a senator. It doesn't make any difference unless it has a particular significance to your application and to you.
Yeah. What if you had the chance to work for 6 veterinarians at the same clinic, but all of them specialized in something? Could you get a letter from all of them?
No. I would take what's most important to you, because again, if you worked with 6 specialists, you're not going to specialize in everything. What was, you know, maybe the 2 that you had the most interest in. No, that's almost like overkill.
Yeah. So here's one. I was a boarding caretaker, then moved up to a vet assistant position, and then over the summer I had an internship all at the same veterinary clinic. Should I include those in all of these in one experience entry?
Yes, because you can, I mean, like if you were boarding caretaker, that's pretty easy to put down what your responsibilities. And again, as your responsibilities increase, you're going to have a little more information. So yes, put it under one, because then you're going to have all the hours under one. They're going to look at it as one place where your responsibilities increased. And it's really, they like to see increasing responsibilities if you stay at one place for a long period of time.
If you're taking a course to improve a grade in spring of 2019, is there a way to include that grade?
No. All you need at that point, everything's decided at that point. So you would just need to get a C in it. And if you're trying to improve it because you had a C
and
in
you're
it,
looking for an
A.
Yeah. So I'm sorry if you can hear my phone. It just started ringing at almost 9 o'clock Iowa time. If interviews are discontinued, how do you pick the accepted students from among those who pass the academic and committee review? How will the students be, about how many students will be selected?
Okay, well, we have a class of 157. 27 of those will be Nebraskans, so that's kind of separate from what we do. We rank them. We have a rubric that's used, that the committee uses, and everybody gets a mathematical score based on that rubric, and they're ranked, and that's how people are selected. The committee has a chance to flag people, which means they either like them a whole lot, and if they fall below what they consider the deny cutoff, then they can champion them and ask, you know, and the whole committee talks about them and determines whether they're going to move them up, or they can, if they have a concern for somebody who is admitted and they have a concern as to why they don't believe this person should be admitted, then the committee can also deny them. That happens with some, but not a whole lot of people. For the most part, we will go by the ranked list.
Here's a question about military veterans and in-state residency. So if the person who submitted that question will put that on the message board, Kathy will get you
right, because some military people can get in-state residency, some can't, and I have absolutely no idea what the difference is.
So would you consider grades from a course-based master's program taken this upcoming winter and fall? So like
Well,
our
for
1
fall,
year
the fall
VMS
grades,
masters.
the fall grades would be considered. Winter wouldn't, because they're already past the
Mhm.
time that we make decisions.
So what about continuing ed? So this would be like a seminar at a you know, AVMA, or this is like the New York State Association for Veterinary Technicians. Would those count as
I would
experience, or
not not really experience. I would put it, again, similar to a certification, as something you would put under honors and awards, that you went to this this conference for continuing education.
Mhm. Okay, it's the final countdown. I think we have 10 questions left. So
Okay.
after these 10, thank you
We're
so
done.
much for your questions. But if you have not submitted a question already, please go ahead and either send us an email or put it on the message board, and we will answer them tomorrow. But these are the last 10, the final countdown. Okay. How many goals should I put down? How many is too many for a career goal?
It depends upon what you're saying. We have people, it's whether you want to tell them that you want to save the world, or whether you will be happy to be a small animal practitioner, either in a big city or a rural area, whatever. Because you can only do so much. And I think if you put too many goals down, it's fairly unrealistic. If your goal is to save the world, we get a lot of people that say they want to open their own clinic, they want to provide care for the homeless, or care for people who are homeless that have pets, and they want to work with shelters. You're not going to do that first thing out of vet school unless you are already very wealthy. So you can put that down. You better have a path as to how you see yourself. The other place where that comes in is if you want to be a zoo veterinarian or a marine mammal veterinarian. Those positions are few and far between. So that better not be your only goal. So you've got to say, how are you going to get there? Because that's probably not going to be your first job when you get out of vet school. So that's what I mean. So you don't want to put down, I want to be a researcher, I want to be a small animal veterinarian, I want to, work with shelters, all that. You need to have some type of a progression if you have a large amount of goals.
Okay, so what about pet sitting? Like, I watched my neighbor's pet in the past. Would that be included as animal experience?
Only if you're very short on animal experience, and only if you got paid to do it. If you've worked at a clinic or have had, say 60 to 100 hours of shadowing experience with a veterinarian, pet sitting isn't really going to be important. The only time that might be important is if there were not just that you had to give medication, but if the pet had very specific physical medical needs. That might be something that you would want to put down. But if you just took care of somebody's cat or dogs, or cats and dogs, for the week they were gone or whatever, you fed and watered and clean litter boxes, that really isn't considered a huge experience.
Perfect. If someone has applied to Iowa State previously and has made improvements on their application, does this demonstrate their interest in going to ISU, and does this help in getting in?
Years ago, I would have said yes, but the way with all the electronics, they will not see your last year's application. And we have 3 people that evaluate your application. 3 of our admissions committee members evaluate each application. But it is highly unlikely that the same 3 will see it this year, and also our committee members change. So I would say no, just for the fact that they're not going to know what last year's application looked like.
So about using military spouse's GI Bill towards veterinary school?
I
That
have no idea.
is a good question for.
I think
Yeah.
you probably can, but again, that would probably go to our veterans office, because I just don't know there's so many different various types of military tuition assistance. I just can't answer those questions.
Mm-hmm. So if you've been able to scrub in and assist in human surgeries, would this be considered good experience?
Yes, it would.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, don't negate something you've done in human medicine, because we have people that started out saying they wanted to be a human medical doctor and then have decided to go into vet med. We also have a lot of EMTs that will apply. That is an excellent experience when it comes to being a veterinarian, and it applies very almost straight across the board. So don't neglect experiences you've had because they've dealt with humans rather than animals.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we know now what the certificate is. So yes, that would go under your awards and honors as a certificate.
Yes, that would. But I would. My guess is that our committee, depending upon what they work with, may not know what that is. So I think you need to explain that. But thank you for letting us know.
Yes, and your description there is fantastic.
Yeah,
just very short
perfect.
and succinct. Good. Thank you. So if a vet clinic sent me to a CE course, would that be included in that veterinary experience, or could they add that in as
I would still put that as an honor and award, because it's different. It's a very short basic educational experience. So I would put that in the honors and awards.
Okay, I've got one question over here, by the way, that is, for the supplemental payment, can we send in a money order? Yes.
Yes.
Check or money order.
Unfortunately, we can't take credit cards or debit cards. Check or money order is fine. Do not send cash, even though I know a lot of people will.
Yeah. Okay. So for the supplemental application, this is our last question, guys, just so you know. So for the supplemental application, it asks for top 4 high school activities. Should I add positions held in that activity as well, such as in the activity portion, or does it just have to be used on the awards portion? For example, under activities, it's acceptable to put, student council member years XX, president years.
Right, exactly. So, that's perfect.
All is one activity. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Somebody snuck in one more question, but we're going to take it. Would participation in ICAB go under awards?
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of what ICAB stands for, but yes, I know what it is.
Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you guys very, very much for all of your time. Thanks for hanging in with us for 2 hours of a application webinar. So hopefully you guys feel really confident about hitting submit in just a little while, just knowing that you can submit early if you're ready.
Yes.
Too. So thank you guys very much. We will have this recording up tomorrow morning, and we'll look for you guys here in our open houses and all of that soon. So thank you.
Thank you.